It's the Final Word Daily review, wash-up show, reacting to the game that was England beating India by 22 runs. The show's brought to you by Brew. I'm Cameron Ponsonby. Daniel Norcross is down the other end of the line to me, fanning himself with a rather beautiful fan that matches the colour of his T-shirt. And the reason he's fanning himself is because he's hot and bothered about all the action we've had over the last week.
I am, actually. I'm very hot and bothered about the action. I mean, to sum it up in 30 seconds, which you haven't asked me to do, but I could give it a go, is mostly, wow, woof. I mean, it was a hot test match, wasn't it? It was a very hot first few days, and then the heat wave kind of broke to reduce the temperature to about 80 degrees as opposed to nearly 90. And it was really hard work, I felt, for the first few days watching it. I was just sort of... Was I gripped? I don't know if I was gripped. I think what I was
gripped.
I was drawn mysteriously to its rather slow passages of play, and being an aficionado of the slow passage of play, and indeed many times relishing it, especially when you're on commentary, because it gives you a chance to sort of wibble along about other things that aren't just cricket. But I did find it a bit turgid. I found the pitch a bit turgid. I found, not surprisingly so, we do know what Lord's pitches do, but it created so many oddities in the first few days, and they all just sort of exploded from there. It was like they've been like a whole series of little Easter eggs have been dropped around, haven't they? 387 plays 387. How did they get there? Why didn't India have a lead? Why didn't England score more? All those kind of things. And it felt like this wonderful tussle, and they could have just done away with the first 3 days and then gone, right, one innings match, lad, over 2 days on a slightly wearing pitch. But yes, I mean, obviously the end will go down in folklore. The closest Lord's Test match victory by runs in Lord's' history, which I found quite surprising.
Am I surprised by that? I don't know. It was fuel to the fire of my one of my most strongly held opinions that I know is false. Is that I don't believe in the first half of sporting events. I think they should be done away with. Pointless. Absolutely. Like, let's just sim game. Get to the point where we've gone, we've played 3 days, it's 87 runs each. Now the wicket's broken up. Let's have a really exciting 1 innings, 2-day match. Fantastic. But let's go about it this way. So let's do a little bit more of a review of the test, because I think it was a test match of moments. Whereas other days whereas there are other matches which kind of ebb and flow and kind of there are storylines developing, this one was more just like hot shots, moments where you had Jofra back, you had Ben Stokes run out, you had Shoaib Bashir's winning moment right at the end. I spoke to a colleague who described it as the worst close test match he's ever seen. Yeah. He just went, on paper, I'm going to look at that on a scorecard and I'm going to go, wow, that must have been a fascinating fixture. And it kind of was, kind of wasn't. So let's do a little bit on Jofra, because, hey, enjoy it while it lasts, because Jofra Archer, his body's never going to hold up for 100 test matches. We know this. There's no point in kind of being like, oh, he might be around for a while. This is just the beginning. I think it was brilliant. He was back. It was quick. It was fast. It was fun. Revel in it now.
Okay, well, I'm not sure I entirely agree with that. I mean, obviously he's not going to be around for 100 test matches because he's too old now to have enough time to play 100 test matches for a fast bowler, you would imagine. But there were a whole bunch of things in Jofra Archer's comeback test that absolutely fascinated me. The first one was that you would think ordinarily that this would be the main talking point of the match, because not only did he come back, he actually performed as well as you could hope a frontline seamer could perform. You look at these average speeds. I think Ben Jones told us this, didn't he, the other day on a WhatsApp group, that on day 2...
Okay, got loads of stats.
Yeah. On day 2, his average speed was 88.2 miles an hour. And that was the first day he bowled. And there were some spectacular things in there. The fastest spells by Englishmen, right up there. Fastest overs in this series, fastest balls in this series, all that kind of thing. But I think everyone thought, well, I bet Jofra can wang down a few 93-mile-per-hour balls. The question is, what's going to happen on day 5? Well, on day 5, he bowled an average speed of 87.4 miles an hour. Now, all fast bowlers get a little bit slower over the course of 5 days. That's kind of the point of it being 5 days. The fact that he barely got slower at all, and he did bowl really quite a lot of overs, has to make us query some of the kind of shibboleths that we are told. I was on commentary at Edgbaston, and during a rain break, we had a lengthy conversation with ex-cricketers Michael Vaughan, Stephen Finn, Jonathan Agnew. Two of them fast bowlers, one of them a captain of fast bowlers. And they were all of the opinion, although Finney was the most guarded in this, that it's not about, he's bowled 18 overs, so he's fit. It's the match fitness. It's the schlepping around the outfield. It's coming back and forth and all that, the mental energy, how it's going to sap him, comeback, Lords, important to the series, that you can't replicate. I mean, obviously, this does beg the question, well, the only way you can replicate all that is in a test match, because you don't get a lot of those things in a 4-day game either. But, their point was that this would be terribly reckless. Why wasn't he instead playing for Sussex with a Kookaburra ball in that county championship match instead of just go to the England team and hang around? And, smart people were saying this is just silly. Well, it turned out that, unsurprisingly, the management did know what state he was in, because I thought that this might be the case, because I thought one of the most high-profile broken bowlers that England's ever had, it would be very reckless if they brought him in and he wasn't in a fit state. But the fact that he was not only in a fit state, but that his pace didn't go down, his athleticism was quite superb at times, he was great caught and bowled. Occasionally, Ben Stokes was a little waspish with him when he didn't feel that he was quite putting in the effort.
That was unusual, I thought. So we haven't seen Stokes be waspish with anyone.
No, but I think he was sort of making the point that, we brought you into this team, but you've got to buy into all of our values, because it's a bit of a, as we talked about this, it is a bit of a cult. But he responded, didn't he? And he responded really, really well. Now, he should have been the story of the Test match, really, but he actually wasn't. The story of the Test match was Ben Stokes. Somehow he made it his story. And he bowled 1 million overs, looked possessed. His tactics were very his own, and he stuck to them, and he showed nervousness on that last day. And so we've ended up talking about Ben Stokes again. When, actually the wider implications for Jofra being able to get through that Test match and keep his speeds up is really significant, not just for this series, but obviously for the thing we mustn't talk about yet, because it doesn't happen until November.
The Ashes.
That's the one.
On the topic of him kind of being England's most broken fast bowler, we will move over on to Stokes, and we'll, of course, cover the big news that Liam Dawson will be in the team, most likely for the 4th Test at Old Trafford. There was a piece, Will Macpherson of The Telegraph wrote a really long kind of deep dive into Archer's return to the Test setup. And there was this really nice little paragraph about, he was interviewing one of the England backroom staff members, who basically said this idea that we've rushed Archer really makes us chuckle, because they go, he's only played one Sussex game. He went, yeah, but we thought he was probably fit enough to play in Pakistan, like 9 months ago. And they went, no, we're gonna really hold fire. Jofra Archer's been playing a hell of a lot of cricket. It's just not been red ball. And don't get me wrong, when Michael Vaughan, Jonathan Agnew, when former players all line up in a certain order and say, no, it's the miles and the legs that you need, that's fielding. That's a cricketing opinion that I'm very much happy to cede to them and go cool, you guys know that better than I do. So if you say that is the truth. I'm sure I can say this. I remember talking to Stephen Harmison, who made me laugh, where he said there's something about a Test match. So he said, I could play a game for Durham. I could bowl 22 overs in out of a 96 over day. I go down the pub with my mates, have 6 pints in a car, and wake up fresh as anything. He goes, ask me to bowl 15 overs in a Test match. My light's off by 9. I'm shot. I cannot, for the life of me, explain the difference in intensity and the mental strain and exhaustion. Your alarm's going off a little bit earlier, you're in a bit earlier, you're warming up a bit earlier, the players are better, etc. So I was on board with the whole kind of Archer, oh God, has he just stood in a field for long enough? Turns out he had. He had. But Ben Stokes, Daniel, I'm a little bit stressed.
Well, I could see that.
So it struck me that this was a wonderful Test match for many reasons. And one of the reasons I thought it was wonderful was the fact we had this combination of seam bowlers that we will never have again. Very possibly. You've got Ben Stokes, always broken. Jofra Archer, always broken. Chris Wokes, getting a bit older now, probably going to be a bit more of a home specialist. Brydon Class, the most reliable, physically fit of the four of them, and was potentially going to have his toe cut off earlier this year. And so when Ben Stokes is bowling 44 overs across the match and he goes like, I need to go and sleep for 4 days now. I wasn't worried about my hamstrings. We've got 2 weeks off. I'm like, are we not just going chips in on the table here and just going like, is Ben Stokes just gone like, I'm going to break myself over the course of the next 7 test matches, and if I can never bowl again, that's fine. Doesn't matter. Job done. We win. I die literally as well as figuratively at Sydney. They burn me, and I am then put into the new urn to be the new Ashes.
Yeah, that's the narrative everyone's going for, isn't it? I mean, not specifically the burning of Stokes in a wicker man.
Don't rule it out.
Oh, Christ, no apples on summer oil. No, there's not. I don't think that necessarily will happen. But I'm not also sure that he's going to want to retire at the end of that series. And just because it's make or break for Bazball in a way, I mean, I'm not sure even that it is, but people are trying to make that the narrative that these 10 tests will define Bazball. I still kind of imagine that Stokes, having got his team to where he wants it to be, has the next big fish to fry, which is if he beats India and he beats Australia, then what he'd really, really, really want to do is a World Test Championship final at Lord's, followed by a home Ashes, and then retire. Because it is only in 2 years' time and he plays no other cricket whatsoever.
I do love the idea that his reward for beating the World Test Championship, I can see that kind of storyline building. Go like, oh, we actually do quite like this competition. But I do also really find the idea of like beating Australia away, and your reward is go, you know what? This has just been so rewarding. All I can possibly dream of doing is beating them again.
Well, but it isn't that, Cameron, is it? It's the very, very best England players have their oval farewell, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Many of them do it in an Ashes series. Look, many overseas players did it as well.
Ambrose
and Walsh. Now, it strikes me that would be the obvious end point. But he might prove me wrong and actually just walk off into the sunset at the end of Sydney. You could be right. It does seem that he has now reached this point where he is. I mean, he probably already was this, but he is the overarching supremo. He is the cult leader par excellence. We called it Bazball, but actually Brendon McCullum is sliding further and further and further, receding into the distance. He is now no more than a man sitting on a bench behind dark glasses, expressionless, basically. And there's no harm in that. I mean, I think that's really what coaches probably should be. But he's weirdly turning into Trevor Bayliss. Do you know what I mean? Insofar as we don't really need to speak to Baz anymore because the CEO, life president, chairman of Bazball is Ben Stokes. I mean, it's actually Benball. It isn't Bazball. And
it's completely correct.
So the issue would become, I mean, there'll be an awful lot of players whose careers, I would suggest, depend on Ben Stokes, who will also be going, I'm looking at you, Zach Crawley, by the way, and to a degree, Shoaib Bashir, going, you don't want to finish at Sydney. You want to keep going for a couple of years. Because I'm not quite sure that necessarily all of the same players would be retained under different management. So it feels a bit like that. It does.
Right, we're going to throw to the Hall of Fame here, I reckon, to do Liam Dawson as the big returning moment. Yeah. Final word favourite, because he's a favourite of mine. So that's how I'm going to spin his addition to the Hall of Fame. But before we get there, this episode brought to you by Brew. It's a supplement to support brain health and performance. Got a range of ingredients that contribute to brain function, and they're called nootropics. The right combination can give your brain a boost when you need it, but its primary purpose is to increase sharpness, concentration, and memory. It's created in collaboration with scientists and nutritionists, so it's all legit and it makes your brain whir and be better. The one you want to get involved in, Advantage, the yellow one. You're ever feeling a bit?
I'm always after an advantage. I like an advantage, and it's not, in this case, an unfair advantage.
Exactly. Or Brew Advantage is like your brain's daily multivitamin, helping with focus, memory, and that all-day mental energy. And it's available in 6 delicious flavours, and those are peach, pineapple, cherry, apple, berry, and strawberry lemonade. If you want to get involved with some New Brew action, head to newbrew.com/final word and you'll get 15% off. That's noobru.com/final word. Right, we'll be right back after this break. We're back. Daniel is fanning himself once more. And we've got the big topic of conversation. It's happened. England's hand has been forced. There were two massive question marks over this England team that remained, even after a victory, which is rare. Normally winning solves all ills. There is the top of the order, where Zach Crawley and Ollie Pope are... Well, Zach Crawley now, if you go back to the start of last summer, World Test Championship matches, so you're taking out his 100 against Zimbabwe. Sorry, mate. Averages 19.8. Ollie Pope, the thing is, I like both. I like watching both these guys bat, so I'm not that fussed
You
about
like a strawberry blonde, don't you, Cameron? You like a strawberry blonde.
I like a strawberry lemonade, New Brew edition. Ollie Pope's still managing to do this thing where he just averages 30 whilst always scoring 100 in the first innings of a series. But Sherb Bashir, broken finger, has his wonderful, wonderful moment of winning the match, which is a great... I was so pleased for him because it was genuine euphoria. It forces England's hand, and they're now going to get an answer to the question, how would Liam Dawson do in Test cricket? He's going to be in. He's been added to the Test squad. He's the only spinner there. He's surely, Daniel, going to play. And what's he going to bring? And what are your thoughts and feelings?
Well, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to realise that it could have been him or Jack Leach. And the fact that they've gone with Dawson, I think, tells you that they want to have the flexibility to rest Chris Woakes. Because by having Dawson, they can take Woakes out and it doesn't affect the batting lineup. If they deem they get to Old Trafford and they think, actually, this is fine for Woakes, these are going to be good circumstances for him because it's going to be overcast. I've seen the long-range weather forecast. You don't really need to see it when it's Manchester. It's a terrible place to play cricket. It's a lovely city. I love Manchester, but it does attract rain at an alarming amount, more so than any other place in the country. So it could be that they want to keep Woakes anyway, but if so, then they just get a bonus because they deepen that batting lineup. If Archer plays again, which you'd imagine he probably would, then he would slip down to number 11. That's not a bad number 11 to have. And of course, if they bring Atkinson in because they figure that Carl's toe's a bit manky, or indeed for Woakes, then again they've got good batting cover to take them down. It seems like a very pragmatic move, which is something you don't always associate with Bazball because everyone's been crying out, Liam Dawson, why isn't Liam Dawson playing? They picked Tom Hartley ahead of him. They picked Rayan Ahmed ahead of him. They've picked, various squads in the last 4 years and no sign of Dawson. But he did play in a couple of one-dayers. So given that he was able to sample the vibes and know what it's all about, because that's very, very important, he must have impressed them sufficiently at his ability to absorb the words of the cult, and he can therefore join the fellowship. What will he bring them? I think, look, and you just don't know until he actually has to play against this Indian side who are exceptionally good batters. It's the weirdest of series. It's the weirdest series since 2009 in that you would say that India have been on top in many ways in the first three games. In one game, the whole time, and in the other two, for really quite large amounts of it. And by most metrics, numbers of runs scored, hundreds, wickets taken, most effective bowlers, they still find themselves 2-1 down despite having better metrics. The best bowler in the series, Jasprit Bumrah, plays only when India lose, which doesn't make any sense at all. So they're in this very confusing situation, which is a bit like the '09 Ashes, which England won 2-1, and yet, they got fewer hundreds, fewer wickets, fewer everythings. Actually, Australia were a better side. And also slightly reminiscent to the 2023 Ashes, when, if you go through that series, England could have won that series 5-0. If you go through every test match, they threw away Lords the moment Lyon walked off when they were in a strong position. They messed up Edgbaston. They should have won that. They lost by 2 wickets. They would have won at Old Trafford, and they won the other 2. So it's like that in reverse. So I don't know what Dawson will definitely bring, but what I think he will bring is that as a spinner, I think he'll be able to bowl lengthy containing spells, which is what they want. And Old Trafford has a reputation for spinning, but I wouldn't get too excited about it because you remember in the first year of Bazball, South Africa got so excited about it that they left out Marco Jansen and brought in Simon Harmer, and the spinners didn't get the ball to turn off the straight. So it was a bit of an error, and they needed Marco Jansen. Instead, they got absolutely thrashed. But as part of a one-spinner lineup with 4 fast bowlers, he is a steady option that looks like he's kind of shoring up a little bit of that batting down the lower order.
I think it's a wonderful is not the right word. I think it is a genuine best case scenario for England that they've left Lords 2-1 up and they get to see the new thing, because they also get to see Dawson. It's the without having to lose face by dropping Bashir. They don't have to damage Bashir by dropping him. But with this Ashes series, or not even with the Ashes, with this series on the line, you now have a bowler who is a more proven product. Although
well, he knows what he's doing. He's more experienced.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's actually played far less Test cricket than Shoaib Bashir, but he's played.
Sorry, what I more meant is like a very experienced first-class bowler who then
and franchises and T20. So you talk about playing against the very best players.
Yeah,
he knows his game better than Shoaib Bashir is going to know his game.
His selection also scratches the itch and just lets everyone know who've always gone, how will he do? We now find out. And that means if you're Rob Key and Luke Wright and Ben Stokes and Brendon McCullum, the same way when they picked Sam Cook at the beginning of the year, people have been calling out for it for years. I enjoyed the circular nature of 18 months ago, county cricket noses went, pick Liam Dawson and Sam Cook. And Rob Key and Zach Crawley, or Rob Key and Brendon McCullum, like, you losers. You don't know anything. Idiots. And 18 months later, I was like, we're going to pick Sam Cook and Liam Dawson, actually. And now everyone can be happy and everyone can find out the answer to the question they want. They wanted the question. They might not like the answer. But I think overall, it is a good and interesting thing that England are going to see. Liam Dawson, 35, but arguably still in his pomp. He averages like 50 in the last 3 years with the bat, 20 with the ball. He's averaging 40 with the ball this year so far, which is a shame. Don't worry about it. Right. Not much, if any, India this week. But do you know why that is? It's because England just announced more news, to be honest. Well, they did with Liam Dawson.
Can I just ask, though, because it does behove us to ask about India. They look to me like they've got the balance of their side absolutely right. They're playing really quite intelligent cricket.
Yep.
I know it's a strange thing to say about a side that collapsed at 82 for 7 from 41 for 1. But there were sort of reasons for that. Maybe they weren't quite aggressive enough on that fourth evening, weren't quite confident enough, But there's little bits of batsman error is allowed to creep in here and there. Do they feel under pressure? Do they feel they need to change things? Because to me, it looks like they've got a really good balance their side. Washington is, by picking up those 4 wickets on a pitch that was no good for spinners and can bat well down the order, just completes it for them. The 3 seamers, the 2 spinners, the batting depth, the incredible difficulty of getting them out. They've batted way more overs than England have. They've scored more runs. But that's basically what cricket's supposed to be about, isn't it? And so aren't they in a good place? And yet they're 2-1 down. Do they change anything? What do they do?
The only change they could really consider is whether they wanted to bring Sai Sudarshan back in for either Karen Nair, who has looked very good, just hasn't scored the runs to kind of legislate his aesthetics. Or if they didn't feel the need to have Nitish Kumar Reddy in the team, they could flip back in the specialist batter again. But Nitish Kumar Reddy, again, lengthens, just provides an option for both. And because England seems to not respect him with the ball, he gets them out.
Yeah, exactly.
They face it, they go, oh, Bumrah, no run. Oh, Siraj, no run. Akashdeep, oh, no run. Nitish Kumar Reddy comes on, they're like, here we go. And
do you want to catch a gully, lad?
Jaiswal, like backward point, Gully goes like, I'm in the game. But you're completely correct. India have won the days, but England have won the moments. I think I might have actually stolen that line from someone else. When I started saying it, I think I've heard someone else say that. And the tipping points have just tilted in England's favour. It reminds me a little bit of when England beat New Zealand at Christchurch over the winter. And on day 1 or day 2, New Zealand dropped 8 catches.
Yes.
And there was just no way of effectively analysing that match because the start of the waterfall was just so important as well. You couldn't say anything without going, well, obviously, like they've dropped 8 catches. That is why they've lost. And there's a similar element to me with India this series, where Headingley, they threw a lot of catches on the floor, which ultimately cost them. They scored 11 runs from their numbers 8 to 11, or maybe even 9 across the first innings.
Nine for 7. Yeah.
9 for 7. There's been such moments of kind of absence of quality, which has undermined the rest of their performances, that they have found themselves 2-1 down, despite very reasonably in some quarters being argued to be the better team of the two. I'd love to see Kuldeep Yadav play at some point, but I don't really know how they do it anymore.
No, neither do I. And Old Trafford might be the one if they get really excited by the idea that it turns. But my view is that Old Trafford is a bit like Sydney, has a reputation for doing something that it doesn't do.
Ooh, that'd be a really good joke. There could be a really good line attached to that. Reputation for something they don't do. I'll think on that one, Daniel. And hey, it's 2-1. It's 2-1 to England. The knives are out. The barbs are being thrown. These two teams no longer like each other. Good point made by Matt Royler, by the way, just to finish on Cricinfo. Much is made in the modern day of the friendliness between international teams because they all play with each other in franchise tournaments. That has never really applied to India because they only play in the IPL. So there's the fewer of those relationships. There are fewer and fewer of the England players who are playing in the IPL. So if you're wanting old-fashioned kind of have a go at each other cricket, tune in for this for the rest of the remaining 2 test matches. It's going to be great, and it's going to be all brought to you by New Brew. Go to their website, newbrew.com/final word. You'll get 15% off at checkout there. I've been Cameron. Daniel's been Daniel. This has been the final word. It's 2-1 England. But India, they're right there. We'll see you shortly.
Gooey.